good evening, everybody, and welcome to the last session of the day. We're really excited to have you all here. My name is Sheila Ratnam. I'm on the Mobile Platform Partnerships team here at Facebook, and I'll be a host for the evening. We're super excited to have 4 esteemed panelists join us, and they're going to share a lot of tips and their learnings about how to build a successful mobile business, leveraging Parse in the Facebook platform. We have Chuck, who's CEO and founder at milestones, Parag, who's director of mobile at StubHub, Serena, co-founder at Kitchen Bowl, and Igor, who's the CPO at Apollon. I'll have each of them delve a little bit deeper into their roles and their companies. Go ahead, Chuck.
I'll go first. Thank you, Sheila. So milestones is made by our company Mobile Data Labs, and we are looking at taking passive data and providing back value to users focused on business use cases. We've been at it for a little bit over a year and a half and built the app originally on Parse and leverage Facebook not only for Parse, but for user acquisition and analytics. So we are a pretty Facebook-heavy company.
Great. My name is Parag Vaish. Can you hear me okay? Is it okay? My name is Parag Vaish. I'm with StubHub. I oversee our product development for our mobile efforts. We're not a startup, but we act that way in our efforts to launch products quickly using technologies like Parse. As many people know, we're a secondary marketplace for tickets, concerts, sports, theater, and we're growing and expanding quite a bit into new areas. Excited to tell you all about that.
Hi, I'm Serena, co-founder and CCO of Kitchen Bowl, which means that I lead all of design for our web and mobile products. And what Kitchen Bowl is we're a social community for cooking enthusiasts to share and discover recipes. And what makes us unique from all the other recipe sites out there is that we actually have a photo and short video clip for every step through a recipe to successfully guide you through a recipe.
Hi, I'm Igor Kunovsky. I'm coming from a company called Apollon. We are based in Belarus, Eastern Europe. And I guess we're not a startup already because we started making mobile apps as the App Store started. So it started in 2008. We had the first app out in 2009. And on Android since 2011. And I guess it's over 200 million of users right now. Oh, well, total installs of the apps that we made. And that's it. And I'm the chief product officer, so I manage the products that we make and the other product managers.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We're really excited to have you. To kick things off, Chuck and Serena, since both of you are the startups of the group and you built your app on Parse, I would love to learn more about the thought process behind why you picked Parse. What were the determining factors? Were there other solutions? And just what helped you hone down with Parse?
Yeah, the main reason was speed to market and ability to iterate. Mm-hmm. So we use Parse for user registration, user management, password security, push, some data syncing as well. And one of the main issues is when you want to make a change on the client, not needing to get the back-end developers to change database schemas. Instead, they can just do the iterations on Parse. And when you're young, you can just do that all on Parse. And then as you get more mature, you can run experiments on Parse. And then once you find out what you want to do in A/B tests and such, you can then make the investment on the back end with your development team.
Cool. Yeah, what's interesting is actually with Kitchen Bowl, we initially started out on DynamoDB and AWS, and Amazon gave us like $10,000 in credit, but we ended up scraping all that and going with Parse just purely for time reasons as well, because we're a social network as well. To get our newsfeed up after I finished designing it, it took literally 2 hours to implement.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great to hear. We always love feedback like this. Parag and Igor, I know that you guys are a little bit more part of mature companies. So how do you use Parse? And again, the decision behind why you ended up picking Parse.
Yeah, I'll start it. So we use Parse exclusively for push notifications. And the large part of the reason of the decision of choosing Parse was the speed of integration. So it's for exactly the same reasons as Chuck and Serena had mentioned. We were able to get up and running very quickly. It offers us quite a bit of a petri dish to be able to try different things that we can then choose to scale through our back-end systems. So it's really a speed-to-market situation. And one of the things I've been learning at this conference is all the other things that Parse enables and does. So even though we're a large company, like I said, we're thinking as a startup, we use Parse in that fashion, right, to be as quick to market as possible.
Well, so for us it was we actually, when we started, there were no Parse, no other backend services systems. So, but we had our team of web developers in-house. So originally, back in the day, we had to build everything ourselves. And what turned out that later on, as we were growing our user base, it turned out that like some of the backend solutions that we built ourselves were not made for this scale that we've grown into. And some of the systems just could not take more users. So we had to look for alternative solutions for, again, push, for then it was analytics for Mac desktop applications. And for some of the parts of the databases are stored with Parse. And the switch was, okay, we have already our in-house solution. It works more or less, but like it could not take another 10 or 100 millions of users. So we have started looking for other alternatives. And wow, one of the reasons why we've actually chosen Parse, it was as simple as that, was the price. Because many backend service solutions, they have their pricing models built for, like, if you're selling each app for $1, they might be all right. If you make an app for a bigger business that when the average check is a few dozens or few $100s, it's all right. If you work on VC money, receive some funding, and you do not have to bring any revenue, today, and you can monetize later, other solutions are all right. But for us, on one hand, we have lots of free users. We monetize them by ads, but actually you make less on the free users than on a paid user. And for many backend services, it looked up like we could not afford them. Well, we could, but it wouldn't make any sense for us to release the apps. We will be paying for them more than we will be making. And that was one of the reasons. Yeah, and another reason was really fast to start. So we, instead of, we had an option to rebuild our own systems from scratch, build them again for scale, but we ended up using Parse because it was way faster. It just could, for Android, could be deployed in like a few hours. So that's it.
Cool. Well, a couple of you alluded to this, but were there any aspects about Parse that surprised you while you were developing your app? Besides the speed.
Yeah, the iterations on A/B testing for mobile are really critical. Being able to do that, everything from the upgrade walls to your user experience, that was something we didn't necessarily expect. We were looking for user registration and the ability to push, millions of transactions without having to deal with the back-end costs. So I think the A/B was really interesting. The other thing, I think, with Facebook owning the back-end services, owning a lot of great user acquisition channels and now analytics, in some ways, as a developer and as a company, you start to see where these things are going to start to merge. So it's probably a safe assumption that there's going to be certain benefits to using platforms that are tied into user acquisitions and analytics. So for us, we're making a bet on Facebook, continuing to expand how these products interweave and giving preferential treatment or preferential benefits to people that use a lot of the platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is one of the goals on the Facebook platform team, is to build a more holistic set of tools that will help developers through the entire life cycle of their app.
Right.
Yeah.
I can add one thing.
Yeah.
So at StubHub, it's a little less about the development surprises, more about how nimble the tool actually is for us. So One of our scenarios that was enabled because of Parse was essentially a shopping cart abandonment concept, but for native apps. And so the scenario is that a user who gets to a certain place in the purchase flow and ceases activity of use of our app, we can remind them, in our case we chose 15 minutes after they've ceased activity of our app, as to where they were in the purchase process. We found that that's approximately the amount of time it takes for them to research our competitors, and we remind them, so theoretically we're bringing them back to our experience for the transaction. We saw a step change in our conversion. It enabled more creative scenarios to be pursued, which we can then scale through our backend systems, as I mentioned. So it's a little more about what it enables for us, because of the speed of integration.
Cool. So Parag and Igor, I think both of you come from a web-based background. Your companies have traditionally been big on desktop. What was the transition to mobile like? And any learnings that we can share with the audience?
Igor?
Well, for us, it wasn't really a transition because we just started building mobile products from scratch. We have not transitioned any user base from web. But and for the company, many of the people remain at their roles. So there's same designers, same project and product managers, same people actually. So yes, we had to hire additional mobile developers. Some of the people that already worked with us, they learn new technologies. It's natural.
Yeah, this is a really tough question for me. At StubHub, we had our mobile moment about a year ago, so the moment when we exceeded 50% of our traffic on mobile. And so we're frankly catching up in a lot of ways, so both on mobile web and app. And so taking a company that's been tremendously successful over 15 years in desktop and learning some of the capabilities, not only on the product side, but on the marketing side and our customer service operations in mobile is challenging. And so we have to proactively work at thinking about the customer experience from a mobile perspective. So what it means is thinking more simplistic, looking for ways to trim and reduce friction in the buying process, training our staff in particular to understand what the customer environment is, and then also accommodating our business model. We're a secondary ticket marketplace. We're historically known for a place where you print tickets before you go to the venue. That's not a scenario that's very friendly in mobile. And so we've had to amend some of our product offerings to accommodate for that. So for example, mobile tickets. We're mobile optimized for about 25 Major League Baseball teams. That enables new business models and scenarios. So for example, the ability to buy moments before the event and walk in with your phone. We even extending into the event time. In certain scenarios, we can extend past the event start time where you can buy fairly last minute or even into the event and get a great deal or even upgrade to a better seat even if you're in the venue. So while challenging to make this move, it's creating new opportunities for us, and it's about embracing those and trying them to see what works and what the future of StubHub looks like.
What would you say is the split for a business coming from StubHub between web and mobile? So the user base, you said 50-50, but...
Traffic-wise, we're greater than 50% on mobile, so call it 55-60% on mobile. Our orders still skew a little bit higher on the desktop side, so my theories around that mismatch are that some people are just very comfortable with high dollar amount purchases on desktop. We tend to be in a couple $100s per ticket, so it's a little less of an impulse purchase and one that's a research in orientation behavior. But as you all know, the shift towards mobile is going to be fast if it's not already there, and people will get more friendly with buying on mobile, and we have to make the process smoother. So for example, in mobile, we offer a view from section before you purchase. So you can see exactly what you're getting. It's a great visual experience. You know exactly what your seat is and what it's going to look like before you get there. That brings us up the confidence level, on your purchase, and so you feel, better about the experience. And because we're StubHub, we have a high brand awareness. It's a trusted experience. It's one that will work out well for you. So if you get this validation that you're working with a solid brand, that give you checkpoints along the way that increase your confidence, have things like money-back guarantees and satisfaction guarantees, that will increase, the adoption of mobile and the swing of transactions towards mobile.
Cool. So Serena and Chuck, both of you built your companies kind of when we're already in this mobile-first world. So how do you view web? Is it a complementary to mobile? Is it to push traffic to your mobile app? Or what do you see as the value to having a web presence?
Yeah, so good question. So mobile is great for content creation, and web is great for distribution and reach. So in the recipe space, when you find a recipe online, you're probably searching on Google, or someone shared a recipe on Facebook, or you found a Pinterest pin. So you're landing on the recipe directly. So if you go to kitchenbowl.com, it's a super stripped down version right now, because like right now we don't even have a search bar because people don't actually go to kitchenbowl.com and then search for a recipe. They search on Google. So our website is literally just like a landing page. However, on mobile, because it's content creation focused, most of the enriched experience is on mobile, and that's where people can like and comment and share photos and recipes and really engage with the rest of the community.
Yeah, I mean, we look at the web as, and the desktop as a, 1 out of 10, maybe even 1 out of 20 use cases. It's where you want to do the really heavy analysis on on how you use one of our products, MileIQ. So we try to allow everyone to do everything on mobile, simply because that's where people are. And from a distribution standpoint, mobile provides a lot better call to action for apps. I mean, the app install is a very smooth process, versus in the web world, it is a link to a site, to a register. There's something much more incentivized and intent-driven once you install an app, and you get people into the engagement process sooner. So there's no doubt things are going more and more mobile, and it's hard-pressed to imagine a consumer app developing today that's not mobile first.
Yeah, so I think we've talked a little bit about the benefits of being on mobile. What would you guys say are some of the challenges of developing on mobile?
UX for sure. You have to cut out features. You have to be really religious about cutting down on feature set. We built our product with all the features first and then cut out about 80% of them. And mobile is a place where people try your apps, they test them, and if they don't meet satisfaction in the first engagement, they get what I call appnesia, and they either forget about your app or they just delete it. So UX, and that's why mobile UX specialists are in high demand, and great ones are very valuable to companies. So I think UX would be my number one.
We have a very similar my perspective on that. It ties into your previous question as well. We have a successful desktop business for quite a while, so there's challenges in believing that you have all the same features from your historically, traditionally successful mobile desktop business that you have to have in mobile. And so thinking about the minimum experience, figuring out what is the most frictionless experience you can create is really tough to do. And it's tough to have that discipline to say, even though this particular feature has been on our desktop site for 10 years and tremendously successful, we're choosing not to have that in a mobile environment. That's a lot tougher than it seems to do, so I echo that comment.
Yeah, just mirroring what Chuck and Parag said, it's really hard to fit a lot of functionality into such a small screen, so you really have to prioritize what features you really want to include. A good example of this is Kitchen Bowl has actually 2 media formats. We share photos and we also share recipes, and recipes are a set of photos and videos. And in our very first version, on the home screen, we allowed people to toggle between photos and recipes. But then through a lot of user testing, we realized that it got really confusing for people because they would just click on a photo and be like, wait, where's the recipe? But photos are still important because it's a quick and easy thing to share, and also it's how we rank our recipes. If someone's successfully made a recipe and posted a photo of it, it's a pretty good indicator that it's a trustworthy recipe. So through multiple iterations, I eventually had to cut out photos completely from the Browse tab and just make that a purely recipe search experience.
All right, so say you get the complete feature set that you want on mobile, your mobile app looks great. How do you think about scaling your company and growing your user base? And maybe this makes a little bit more sense for Chuck and Serena to take. And also congratulations, by the way, on fundraising for both of you.
I think the hardest thing about starting a company right now is having a good go-to-market. Because now the bar for having a great product is so high, and there's a lot of great products that never get critical mass. So, my advice when anyone's starting a company is, if you figure out the great idea and you can't figure out the go-to-market, don't start on building the great idea. So in our case, our go-to-market is really the app install process, and we spend a lot of time iterating, those funnel conversion metrics and making sure that users understand why they're there, and making sure that we satiate their intent, and then using that to back up how we message the product and the various ways we drive organic as well as paid app install, as well as non-mobile centric. So, I think the critical thing is, don't get your great idea, but if you can't get your go-to-market down, don't start on the great idea yet.
So we just launched a few months ago, so we're still growing. But I think what we've done well is we've really focused in on producers first. And we find these producers by people who are already uploading photos of food on Instagram or who have food blogs, because they're already used to this type of pattern of sharing food. And so these are the people we're doing a lot of high-touch outreach to, and they're our initial set of users creating the high-quality recipes that we're looking for to represent the Kitchen Bowl aesthetic and brand that we're looking for. But later on, definitely we want to focus on growth and building a more consumer-focused app, which means a better bookmarking and curation experience.
Yeah. For Parag and Igor, what are some of the milestones that you set for your team when it comes to mobile?
Well, I guess for us, it's not about the milestones. It's, I guess, the goal. Like, we are not, as many startups do, okay, we have this great idea for something that no one has ever done before. Let's try to do something that never existed. It might work, it might not work, but our way of doing things is that we figure out where there is a market, where there are already few apps doing similar things. So there are apparently, if there are a few apps, there is definitely a demand. So we go to that market and try to make our app better, simpler, easier to understand. So basic idea is to have #1 app in every niche. Well, like, we do not do games. We do not do things that are not monetized at all. But apart from so it's mostly utilities and customization apps. So we have a weather app, we have a notepad, we have an alarm clock. Yes, on one hand it looks traditional. On the other hand, there is definitely things that we are doing in a different way that other developers have done. So I guess the milestones is to actually have this #1 app in each and every category of each and every app store. Yes, we have managed that with customization for iOS. We've managed that for weather, mostly outside of the US. So if you look at the paid weather apps worldwide, I guess it would be us #1. Not that big. We still have to grow the free one, but so that's it.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry. And for how we build it, for us, the critical mass is something that actually works, because since we have lots of apps, we build a network of them, we cross-promote between them, and we relied additionally on Facebook and on other advertising networks to drive additional installs, but it's always an addition to the network effect that the whole mass of apps has.
At StubHub, I've been there 2 years, and so I look backwards and can answer the question about milestones along the way. When I first joined, if you knew exactly what ticket you wanted to buy for a certain event, you'd have to tap on the screen 9 times in order to transact. That was a lot. So I mentioned reducing friction as a key lever, for increasing our growth. So after a bunch of work, we got down to 4 taps, and our conversion rate has increased by 4x over that time horizon, largely due to the reduction of the friction. Now, if I look back for those milestones and tie it to the marketing question you asked of go-to-market, I'd say the first 6 months, we focused on improving the product and getting to the place where we felt really proud and really good about the product. So putting in a native checkout experience, removing a bunch of bugs, and simplifying the onboarding and the login and registration process. That was largely what the first part was. Then we turned on some of the marketing activities, and we started with App Store optimization. So before doing any major dollar efforts, we started with App Store optimization. A company called Mobile Action helped us, and because there were no other material marketing efforts going on, we were able to isolate that, and we saw something on the order of about 60% increase in our total downloads because of App Store optimization. It was remarkable. After that, we started weaving in some of the bells and whistles. So I mentioned mobile ticketing. I mentioned some of the things that we've been doing at Apple. Maybe I didn't mention those. Apple Pay integration as of late. Passbook integration of our mobile tickets. So we've essentially caught up, in my opinion, to what the latest and greatest technologies are of the different App Store providers. And now we turn on some of the material marketing efforts. So this year is a dramatic change from last year in terms of our investment. And it's gone at that sort of iterative scale of move the product forward, move the marketing forward, and continually go back and forth in that elevation.
Yeah, so for each of you, when it comes to milestones and goals, what role has Facebook or Parse played in helping to accomplish some of these?
I'll go first. On the development side, I mentioned it. It's really speed to market, initial speed to market, and then as we've achieved scale, it's speed on iteration. There are some core services, a lot of core services actually, that we continue to process through Parse. And it just works, which is great, and we don't have to have our developers, focused on that. Instead, they can focus on things that are unique to our app. The Facebook analytics tool that's out recently, measuring cohorts, measuring event tracking, being able to do attribution now outside of Facebook is extremely valuable. And then obviously Facebook's ability to serve ads to the people you want to get to it's definitely best of breed, and it allows you to really channel your marketing dollars correctly.
And anyone else?
Well, for us, it's one thing that's already been mentioned is the speed of development, and another, yes, we have a strong network of our own apps, but when it's not strong enough, there comes user acquisition.
I'll offer one comment on that. So Parse enables business model scenarios that we hadn't considered before. So first, on the push notification side, you can send out notifications to fans and let them know that an artist is in town or a team is playing this weekend, and you draw in traffic. So we have an inexpensive traffic acquisition mechanism for that. Because we're a marketplace, we facilitate the buy and sell aspects of a ticket marketplace. We have a high cost structure when people call us and have some kind of a problem. And so if we can shortcut that and send them a notification about their order, that their order is ready for printing, or that the tickets are available for download, whatever it is, we can save money on the cost side because of not receiving those calls. And lastly, the search engine marketing expense that we bear is significant, and it's getting more competitive in search engine marketing. Parse allows us to essentially bring down that expense and reacquire our customer who normally would have gone to Google and searched for an event. They would consider StubHub first as a result. So we have a cost savings on both reducing our calls and increasing our traffic without having to pay for it again.
Yeah, just to affirm speed to market, with a team of 2 people, we were able to launch our MVP in literally 3 to 4 months. And if, let's say, we wanted to add a flag for, I don't know, approved recipe, all we had to do is change it on Parse. We don't have to change it in 4 different places.
Nice. So for Chuck and Serena, since both of you recently raised money, how do you approach having these conversations with VCs? And do your goals change once you have money in the bank?
Do you want to go first?
Do our goals change? Well, we can finally hire and grow our small team of 2 people to 4. We just hired a director of marketing from Urban Spoon. She's joining us next month, so we're super excited about that. Yeah, and so, like I mentioned, we've been focusing purely on producers, and to be honest, that's probably only 1% of the market we're actually going for. So now we're definitely going to be focusing on growth, and I'm super excited about the new analytics tool coming out. Yep.
Yeah, on preparing to raise money, as everyone knows, raising money right now is better than it's been in a long time, if ever. I think it's really important to choose where you get your money and finding, if it's seed or angel investors, finding angel investors who actually can make a difference in your go-to-market or your technology. Taking the first money, whereas you could have got money from someone who is the ex-chairman of the board of a strategic partner that you want to work with. So you don't want to necessarily take money from the people who are at the company, because then you create a conflict of interest. What you want to do is take money from people who've formerly been at the company, or have relationships with people at the money, with the money. That's one thing. In terms of choosing your venture partners, if you move from seed to venture, I think it's you want to do the same thing. You want to find people who are experts in either your technology or your go-to-market, or your vertical. So it's hard not to take the first money that comes at you, but it's worth it to kind of put together a list of who are our ideal people to take money from, and try to start there before you start fishing for money.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, our lead investor, John Steinberg, he's probably the largest angel in Seattle, and he has like 1 foot in tech and 1 foot in the food world, so he's been really helpful. Like, he introduced us to the top chefs in Seattle, and he introduced us to the largest investors in All Recipes, and then that guy introduced us to the former CEO of All Recipes, who made it the empire that it is today. So it is just about picking the right people who share commonalities with you and can really help your business out.
Nice. So what would you say is the biggest focus for each of you in 2015?
Growth.
Yeah.
Yep, growth and continued. It's based on user experience, right? Delivering value back to users, and you've got to do that, and you've got to balance that with growth. Investing all your time and efforts and engineering on growth, you're going to leave user value on the table. So that balancing act is always tough, and you'll know whether you made the right call in hindsight. When you look back, there's companies that overinvest in growth and their product falls behind. Someone called MySpace was maybe one of them. And there's companies that invest, too much in innovation and don't rise above the noise for growth. So balancing that is probably the biggest challenge.
For StubHub, personalization is a really big deal for us in 2015. So we've typically been known as the place where you can find the ticket that you want. We want to change that to, we want to share with you what is happening that maps to your interests. And so using the tools of Facebook are going to be critical for that, because there's so much rich data that's available to a company like StubHub. So that's the primary focus in 2015. Along with that is greater app adoption. It's not easy to do. There's a lot of learning that goes on there. That's a very important part of our marketing strategy for this year.
For Kitchen Bowl, it's growth as well, but more specifically, we want to win in the SEO search space. What's interesting is that for recipe SEO, it's a very long-tail distribution. Even though there are hundreds, thousands of recipes out there on the internet, just 4,022 recipes covers half of all recipe search traffic. And within the few months that we've been out, we already have 1,000 high-quality recipes. So that's not that hard to cover a majority of your recipe searches. And meatloaf alone has like 301,000 searches per month, and I don't even like meatloaf, so we really want to beat all recipes.
So again, I would go about growth, but for now it is in many verticals that we're working, there is no way to grow any further for existing product. Like, we are already number one. So this year is expanding to new niches, to new markets, to new things that we haven't done before.
Awesome. So there's been a lot of useful advice here. I'll ask one last question before we turn it over to Q&A. But Chuck already mentioned this before, but if you were to give one piece of advice to a startup right now, what would it be? I know you said have a go-to-market strategy, not just a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, I would just double down on that. You've got to figure out what your Trojan horse, your ninja go-to-market is. Rising above the noise of the millions and millions of apps is very difficult.
Yeah.
Igor's got the advantage that they have a huge install base they can
Cross-promote.
cross-promote. You guys have 4,000 recipes you can SEO index against and get critical mass, and you've got the thought leaders going. StubHub is, the leader in online, I guess you call it secondary ticket sales. So I would say, really spend a lot of time figuring out your go-to-market.
In any order?
One piece of advice for startups, I would say don't give up. We've seen this time and time again in history where you start your company is typically not where you end. And so if you had killed your idea and stopped and ceased all activity on the first iteration, you probably would have missed out on the glorious outcome that is there. So keep iterating, keep finding the spot where there's a nice market fit, and once you figure that out, then go like hell and win.
Yeah, I would say try to solve a problem that you're experiencing yourself. Like for us, we started Kitchen Bowl because we wanted to learn how to cook on our own, and we just ran into so many frustrations. Because then you're the perfect user for your product, and you know exactly what ticks you off, what isn't working out there. And it's just great to build a product that you would use yourself.
Well, for me, I guess it's stop calling yourself a startup, because startup is startup is about looking for a business idea, looking for the business model, but actually all the things exist already. You just can go and do things better, existing things.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. So we'll open it up to Q&A. Parag has offered to make this a little bit more interesting. So anyone who asks a question that makes them uncomfortable or a very hard question, Parag is going to give out some tickets that StubHub has kindly offered to donate, once I check with legal to make sure it's okay. But, yeah. We have mics right there.
Hi. So my question is, who owns all the data that you guys are generating and storing on Parse?
Wait. Who would you like to go see?
This is to everyone. So.
Who owns the data?
Well, I'm not that good at legal, but I guess we do. Because we actually store very little data on Parse. If that's just the push token for you to send the push notification, and whether like the person has used like camera or sharing, there is nothing. We know nothing about people, so
Yeah,
there's
I
nothing
think
to store.
I think, yeah, quite simply for us, there's nothing personally identifiable, so we don't cross a line that says, is this proprietary to the fan or to StubHub or to Parse or Facebook. So we haven't broached it in that way, probably because it's not something that's personally identifiable.
Hi. You've all accomplished so much already in your lives. What is your personal end games?
Personal what?
End games. So, what are you looking to achieve for you personally?
I mean, for our business, it's really, we're focusing on the individual entrepreneurs of the world and the US. So what we're trying to do is make it easier for, whether you're a salesperson or a plumber or a contractor, to get more time back in your life. So that's something that, not only are we passionate about, we're entrepreneurs ourselves. And it's something that we hire people that are passionate about that idea. And we really enjoy building products that people have high utility. So it satisfies us, and it satisfies kind of a personal goal to try to help everyone be more entrepreneurial. And when I say entrepreneurial, I mean like, the electrician who gets out of bed every day and like figures out how he's going to like make money and get to his kid's soccer game and do all those sorts of things. So for us, we can personalize it around our users, and that helps us build better product, and it satiates our passions for building products as well.
I know your question was personally, right, so the individual. So let me answer it in that context. So personally for me, I enjoy problem solving. I enjoy conceiving of an idea and seeing it out to its fruition. You can do that at a startup. You can do that at a big company. You asked about endgame. I hope it never ends, honestly, because I think you can do that regardless of where you are in your life. It's not a financial reward-driven goal. It's about the satisfaction of seeing something come to market that solves a problem.
For me personally, I honestly just wanted to learn how to cook. I grew up on like Costco frozen dinners and like ramen because my parents are so busy. I never actually wanted to start a company or anything like that, and I just somehow ended up here.
That was good.
Like for me, I guess the personal goal is pretty much tied to the work you do, because I actually always wanted to get something into the hands, ears, or like screens of each and everyone that I can reach. Like back in the days, I was doing music. Now we're doing mobile apps. Who knows? But we'll be doing it in like 10 years. But I guess I will do something that will be in as many hands as possible.
Great session, guys. I have 75 developers. We build a lot of apps on native. And I'm sold on Parse, but when I go to my developers and ask them to build apps on Parse, they had some hesitations that, once we grow too big, then it may be really hard to pull back, or, what happens when we reach, too many API calls per second. So was there any period in your company growth that you felt Parse was not enough for you to grow fast? Or any reason for you to pull out from Parse?
For push notifications at StubHub, because we have a high volume of users who've adopted and accepted to receive push notifications, we do hit points when we're sending out a notification to a large audience and it takes a while for it to go out. So if we're trying to do a time-sensitive notification, let's say team's advancing to the Super Bowl, or somebody who just makes a trade to another team and we need to hit a lot of people, you want it to be time-sensitive and you lose a little bit of that ability. We've worked directly with Parse on that, and they've been great at responding to accommodating that need. So I can't speak to the development side of what took place, but I can say the responsiveness of the Parse team to grow with us has been there. So that's speaking as a large company who's gotten to that place, but we've adopted Parse for nimbleness. So I'd say kind of flip it around and say, you've got to start somewhere. Start with something like Parse, if not Parse, and kind of deal with the problems later. But it seems like the product is growing and improving, as you saw from all the things launched this conference.
Yeah, and we're always constantly happy to get feedback on how Parse works, and we want to make it as efficient a product as possible for companies of all sizes.
Hi. Have you ever, in your process of developing your product, like particularly when you think to the early days of launching the app, have you ever hit a phase where you had to answer, you hit a fork kind of between deciding if you were going to make a decision that led you towards profit, or if you were going to lead towards enhancing your user experience? And what did you do?
I don't see a conflict in it, because better user experience means people will be more happy to use your product and will be happy to pay higher price for it. So I don't see that there is actual choice you have to make.
Yeah, their
You can do both.
engagement is what drives lifetime value. So their overlap is very direct there.
If your question was choosing between profit/revenue and the customer experience, customer experience should always win in that equation. Mm-hmm. It should. I don't know your scenario that you might have faced, but we're a very customer-centric organization, and we're in it for the long run. And so if you operate with that as the premise, that you're not going to go out of business tomorrow, then choosing the customer experience is the way to go. There are probably other instances where if you are going out of business tomorrow, maybe you do something a little differently, but overall, in the long run, customer experience should win out.
Hi, my name is Jenny. My question is for Sheila, actually.
Sure.
How many companies are on Parse? And then also, how did you decide from
Yeah, so we have over 400,000 active developers that are using Parse. So there's a lot to choose from. We've worked very closely with these 4 companies in particular, and Igor has come all the way from Belarus for this panel. But we have a Parse partnership team out in London as well, working with our developers in Europe. So we wanted to make sure there was representation of different size companies, people that we really trust and we think have given us really valuable feedback to help shape kind of what Parse will look like in the future.
So how do you measure, when a company joins Parse, how do you measure, oh, they become successful through Parse?
That's really not really for us to do. We want to provide customer support across the board, regardless of the company's size. And I think each individual company gauges success a little bit differently. So we don't have any quantitative lists that if you hit these many users or if you make this much money, that's the only time we're going to talk to you. We actually want to be able to provide support as humanly possible across the board.
Hi, my name is Rob, and since this is the last session of the day, I'm curious from the whole panel, what would be the one feature that you wish they announced this week?
You're not happy with what we've announced? No. Yeah. Yeah.
Your question was, what feature for our own companies would we wish we could have announced this week?
That is a great question.
Yeah. You're getting tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think, as I said earlier, I think when building on Parse increasingly gets you better performance on the ad networks, increasingly gets you better analytics, and analytics help you build better products and get you better. I think it's starting to happen, but I think you're going to see more ties around kind of the ecosystem of customer acquisition, analytics, and development tools. I'm excited to see more of those announcements come out because that means you've picked a great partner, right? There's increasing returns from the partnership.
I think as StubHub, we're underutilizing the full suite of Facebook services. So when you're in that spot, it's hard to ask for more, right? So first is we need to utilize what's being made available to us. Second is I can't answer what I'd be thrilled to announce for StubHub. We have some exciting things coming out, and I do believe you might be the winner of the tickets.
This isn't really like a major feature or anything like that, but for us, I guess the only minor frustration we've ran into is there's no real test environment with Parse. So when we first built our app, everything was live. But other than that, can't really think of anything.
Well, I can only think about minor features. They're so minor that I don't see the reason to actually talk to them about them.
Cool. Well, thank you all so much. Thank you for joining us. Hope you had a great F8. I think we're going to play a video real quick in a couple minutes, but thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend.